What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel a update, or part 2 rather, to my combos and test hands for my Bug Link deck profile for the post Rage of the Abyss format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We are currently working our way to 2,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So, insects have been a deck that I've been tweaking for the better half of the past few weeks now. I've already uploaded a deck profile, which will be linked in the description below, as well as a part 1 to the combos and test hands. However, due to the request of some of my viewers and subscribers, they wanted me to do a second combo and test hand video going even more in depth, showcasing more combos. Now, this deck is obviously a 60 card bug pile, and it's very complex. There's tons of moving parts, and personally, rather than just showing you duelists like, you know, typical 1 to 2 card combos, because of how massive the deck is and complex it is, I think it's just going to be more beneficial for me to do test hands and just like shuffle the deck, you know, draw a 5 card hand and show you guys what's possible depending on the different hands that we're given. Now, in doing so, some hands are going to be better than others. Obviously, I have no control over that. That's just pure RNG. But, you know, it should give you a better idea of how the deck plays in more scenarios, as opposed to showing you guys, like, you know, your typical 1 or 2 card insane, huge, you know, FTK type combo. Not that this deck FTKs, but you know what I mean. So I think it gives you a more real representation of what the deck is like. Now, I did optimize the deck further, so there were changes made, you know, that are different from the profiled version. I made a post on my channel yesterday showcasing what was changed. So if you're more curious about that, it was basically, you know, just some optimization updates to the deck in the grand scheme. And I actually did make an additional change, which I'll post a photo in a post tonight on my channel. But I swapped out the Dominus Purges for Ghost Ogres. That was the only change I made as of yesterday, in addition to the other changes that I incorporated into the deck list. But either way, I just want to get down into the combos. I don't want to waste too much more time. I will give a brief explanation as to why I chose to cut Dominus Purge from the main deck and sub it for Ogre. Dominus Purge is a very powerful card, and I had assumed that the restriction of if you activate it from hand, you're locked out of water, fire, and I believe dark effects for the rest of the duel. I felt that restriction didn't matter. However, I was testing last night, and it did come up several times. We do play darks and some fires in the extra deck, and I was unable to use those monsters, and it cost me a few games, and it kind of just left a bad taste in my mouth. So I opted to cut Purge in favor of Ogre, which is still pretty strong non-engine, especially for this upcoming format. So that's just a little bit of a detailed explanation there. Everything else, if I pull the cards that I did make changes on, I'll discuss them a little bit as to why. But either way, I've already pile shuffled the deck. We're going to go ahead and cut, and we're going to just draw the first 5 cards and see what we can get ourselves into. So we have Ragnaraka the Evil Seed, a Resonance Insect, Crawler Soma, this is already insane, Armed Rebellion, and another Resonance. This is absolutely insane. And obviously you duelists saw that I cut the deck. So again, if I drew a suboptimal hand, I mean, that's just how it is. You know that sometimes that's Yu-Gi-Oh, but this hand is obviously very playable. So we are going to have a pretty good combo to showcase for you here. Also, I know that it is Halloween. Happy Halloween to my viewers. And if you hear some like background noise or kids screaming, it's, you know, obviously there's kids trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. So I'm trying to keep the outside noise to a minimum, but if you hear anything weird, that's what's happening in the background. Or maybe they're just freaking out at how insanely creepy that this deck is, because not many people like bugs. But either way, let's go ahead and start comboing. Now, when you draw hands that feature Evil Seed plus Rebellion, I generally want to lead off with Evil Seed. The reason for that is because Armed Rebellion locks you into insects, special summons only for the rest of the turn. So if you lead with Rebellion, you will not be able to special summon the Ragnaraka Evil Seed from the hand. You can still normal summon it, but as far as like using it as an extender, you're not going to be able to do, nor are you going to be able to make the Skeletal Soldier in your extra deck because it is not an insect, it's a plant. So just be mindful of that. In hands that do, where you open both Rebellion plus Evil Seed, you generally want to lead with Seed. Or in hands that open with like Seed or Rapier, because Rapier is in the same boat. If you use the Rapier effect, you are locked into Insects for special summons from the extra deck. So if you still want to use the Evil Seed and do that combo, which does make the Skeletal Soldier, you need to commit to that line first before committing to either the Rebellion play or the new Battle Wasp Rapier. But this hand is absolutely incredible. So we're going to lead off with the Evil Seed. We're going to go Evil Seed, use its effect to discard a Insect Planter Reptile from the hand to special itself. In this case, we're pitching Resonance. And then we'll special the Seed and activate the effect. Now, what's cool about this is that our hand is so good, we don't even need this to resolve. If the opponent did hand trap this, which is likely, let's face it, it is a pretty powerful starter, we can follow up with Rebellion to continue extending and follow up with Somas. We just have a really strong hand in this case. So obviously this is just to showcase what the capability of the deck is. So we're just going to play this out like we're not playing into Disruption. But just know that if this did not resolve, it didn't really matter because we could still have full combo with both Rebellion and Soma in the hand, which is crazy. But again, we're just playing this out like everything's going through just to showcase you guys what the ceiling actually is if you do go off undisrupted. So we're going to go Seed and we're going to grab two Ragnaraikas. So they are going to be the Wicked Butterfly as well as the Samurai Beetle, which I probably already passed it. It's the only problem with 60 card decks. When you have to search cards, it gets a little tedious. So we have Samurai Beetle and Wicked Butterfly from the deck to our hand, and then at resolution we have to banish a card from our hand. So we're going to banish the Wicked Butterfly, which will trigger her effect in the banish zone, allowing us to draw a card during the end phase. Do not forget that effect, it's very important. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go Samurai Beetle, targeting the Wicked Butterfly. We're going to bottom that card to the bottom of our deck and special summon the Samurai Beetle here. Now at this juncture, we will take both the Evil Seed and the Samurai Beetle and use those as link material to make our first link summon of the Ragnaraka Skeletal Soldier. Then, since we sent Samurai Beetle to the graveyard for the link summon of a Ragnaraka link, Samurai Beetle's grave effect triggers, allowing us to reborn any level 4 or lower insect, plant, or reptile in the grave. So we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves the Resonance Insect from our graveyard off the Samurai Beetle's graveyard effect. And now we're going to use Skeletal Soldier to revive a Ragnaraka from our grave back to our side of the field in defense position. So we'll go Skeletal Soldier effect to revive Samurai Beetle. And keep in mind, we already have like a Link 4 play available to us from this point here, and we haven't even committed to a normal summon yet, which is just absolutely disgusting. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our Skeletal Soldier and our Resonance Insect and link those off for a Link 3, which will be the Ragnaraka Mantis Monk. Very powerful card. And that will trigger the graveyard effect of our Resonance, since it was sent from the field to the graveyard. So that will allow us to add a level 5 or higher insect monster from the deck to our hand, of which we can add some pretty insane cards, one of them being the brand new Battle Wasp, the Rapier. Or is it Rapier? Rapier? I'm probably butchering the names. My apologies if I'm doing so. Hopefully no one's getting too triggered. But we're going to go ahead and add the Rapier off of the Resonance effect, giving us an additional way to extend. And now that we've already burned through the Evil Seed plus Skeletal Soldier play, these are the only like non-insects that we run in this deck. So once we exhaust like both of their utility, at least for the time being, we can now full commit into the insect lock. So if we want to go lead off with Rebellion or the Rapier, we can do so now, especially since we only control all insects. The Rapier is live. Something to keep in mind is that he can only be used if you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are insects. So just be mindful of that. There are a couple of things you have to like worry about as far as sequencing goes. And this is why I tell you that if you open with Seed, you generally want to lead with the Seed. And just try to get that out the way. Even if you feel like it's going to get hand trapped, there are ways to like mitigate that. Like I said, especially since we opened both Rebellion and Soma, if the Seed did get hand trapped, we could just book it face down with the Soma and extend with the Soma play, which obviously that means if we get to Rapier later, even if the Seed was set, we still just control all insects. The game cannot identify what type this is, so the Rapier would still be live. Or if we didn't want to commit to Soma, we could just go Rebellion, summon out the Sting the Poison from the deck, and then send the Evil Seed to grave, thus breaking us out of the plant on the field. So just food for thought. But either way, like I said, enough yapping. Let's continue comboing. Why don't we go... Let's see, just checking our grave real quick. Why don't we lead off with the Rapier, the Onslaught here. So let's go use this effect since we just control all insects. Let's discard the other Resonance from our hand, special out the Rapier, or I'm sorry, before we special the Rapier, we'll place a Battle Wasp Wind from our deck to our spell trap zone. Remember to do that first, because that's how you're able to trigger the wind once you summon the Rapier. So it's place wind, then special, basically like you know, a bug version of Blackwing, and then that'll trigger the Battle Wasp Wind, allowing you to get a search of a Battle Wasp from deck to hand with attack less than the monster that was summoned. And now at this point, we can grab pretty much a number of things. We can go for Sting the Poison, because believe it or not, we've gotten this far and we still haven't committed to a normal summon yet, which is obviously insane. That's probably the line we'll go, so let's go for Sting from the deck to our hand. And now what we can do is we can actually get really, really nasty with it. Why don't we go Mantis Monk effect? Banishing 2 insects, plants, or reptiles from our grave. So we're going to banish both Resonance insects from the graveyard, allowing us to search for a Ragnaraka trap from the deck to our hand. For the purposes of this particular combo, I'm going to go ahead and search out the Wisteria of Woe, because this is just an amazing card to get into rotation pretty early. Even if you don't know the matchup, a double DD Crow is never a bad thing to have, and it just, once you get this card in rotation, the amount of recovery it offers you for absolutely free is just unmatched. I still play the Hunting Dance, but I just want to let you guys know that Wisteria of Woe lately has been the first trap I grab off of Monk. Now what we'll do is, since both Resonances were banished, they'll both trigger in sequence, allowing us to Foolish Burial insects. 2 of them specifically, 1 for each Resonance. So one of them, we will go ahead and Foolish our copy of Gokapole, and off the other one, we will go ahead and Foolish Burial a copy of... Probably just grab the Scary Moth, get that out of the deck preemptively. And then what will happen is, once that chain resolves, we'll trigger the Gokapole in our graveyard since it was sent, and that will allow us to add a level 4 insect from the deck to our hand, of which we'll probably grab ourselves a copy of Retaliating Sea, and that will make more sense later. Now, as you can see, we still haven't normal summoned yet, which is just nuts. We still have a 5-card hand, and we've already burned through like so many different things, and we have a lot of pressure on the field as it is. But now what we can do is we can finally commit to our normal summon, which will be normal summon Sting. We'll go Chainlink 1 Sting, Chainlink 2 Wind, getting a double search here. So off of the Sting, we will go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Arbalest, and then off the Wind, we'll grab ourselves a copy of Pin the Bullseye. Remember that Wind can only add a Battle Wasp whose attack is less than the attack of the monster you summoned. So just be conscious of that. Like, if you go Sting search the Pin, then Wind just fizzles because you don't have a target that's less than 400 attack except for Pin, and we only play 1 Pin. Reason why I'm only on 1-ofs of the Battle Wasp extenders is because even though they are extenders, they're all hard ones per turns, so opening them in multiples does you no favors. You'd rather just search them off the Wind and just have more utility slots in the main deck. So now that we're here at this juncture, we can go effective Pin to special itself. Remember to burn your opponent for that lovely 200 damage. And now what we'll do here is we'll go Wind's effect to target an insect we control, and it becomes a tuner. So we will target our Rapier, turning it into a level 5 tuner monster. And what we'll do here is we'll go Synchro the Rapier and the Pin to make our first level 6 Synchro, which is the new Sachi, the Ritual, or Ceremonial Bowl, excuse me. We will not be using her effect on summon to turn herself into a tuner because we already have a tuner in the form of Sting, but we will be utilizing her secondary ignition effect, allowing us to bounce a continuous spell we control to the hand, and that will allow us to get an additional summon of a normal summon of a Battle Wasp this turn, in addition to our normal summon set. And that's a lingering effect, so if we clear the Sachi, either we link it off or synchro it off, we can still normal summon an additional Battle Wasp this turn at any point, which is obviously really good. She does not need to stay on the board for that additional benefit. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to synchro using the Sachi and our Sting, who is a tuner. So we're going to synchro for 8, which will bring us into our copy of the Diablantis, the Menacing Mantis. And on summon, Diablantis effect will allow us to Foolish Burial a insect or a plant. So what we'll do here is we will go ahead and send ourselves a copy of... can do this a number of ways actually, but why don't we go ahead and send ourselves a copy of Praying Mantis to the graveyard, which is just an extender out of the grave. Pretty strong. Now what we can do here is we can activate our Battle Wasp Wind. Note that the first time it was on the board, it was placed by the effect of Rapier. And now we're just hard activating it, which will allow us to use the double search effect again, effectively giving us 4 searches off of this card, which is just crazy. So now what we can do here is we can then normal summon, using the effect of our Sachi, our Arbalest, and we'll go Chainlink 1 Wind, Chainlink 2 Arbalest to revive a level 3 or lower insect from grave. And what we'll do here is we can go ahead and bring back our copy of Sting. It doesn't really matter who you revive, at least in this case. Sometimes it does. It just depends on what you have in the graveyard, because Arbalest does not negate the effects of the monster that it special summons, which is crazy. And now at this point, oh, and then Wind, don't forget the Wind search. Can't forget that free real estate. So we're going to go for a copy of Twinbow the Attacker off of the effect of our Battle Wasp Wind. And as you can see, we're able to just spam bodies to the board. Now, obviously, the biggest weakness of this deck is the fact that it loses to Nibiru. But in the grand scheme, it only loses to Nib if your opponent nibs you in the incorrect spot, which, let's face it, your opponent's not going to know what half of these cards do because bugs just aren't that popular or relevant. But they're usually going to nib you incorrectly, and when they do, you can always capitalize on that because this deck just has so many ways to extend. Note that we have 1, 2, 3 extenders in the hand still. So even if they Nibiru'd us here, we would still be able to push through that and like continue to make other stuff, which is just really insane when you think about that. But anyway, getting off topic here, why don't we go Diablantis effect to make itself a tuner, and now we will synchro using the Mantis and the Arbalest for a Synchro 12, which will be our copy of the Grand Partisan, the Revolution, that will trigger our Battle Wasp Wind. Again, it's a twice per turn search. We will grab a copy of Battle Wasp Rapier the Onslaught, either to have for follow-up, or to use as a discard outlet, or even to have in the hand as fusion material, because its level being 5 is relevant for that. So however you want to work that out. And now, from this point, what we can do is we can link off the Partisan and the Mantis Monk. Do we want to do that, actually? Partisan and Mantis Monk, does that sound... Maybe we keep the Monk, actually. Why don't we link off the Samurai Beetle and the Partisan, and that will allow us to make our copy of Pico Felina. We will trigger the Pico Felina effect, discarding a card. So why don't we pitch the Wisteria of Woe? This is another reason why I like searching this, because you can get this card to grave with the help of Pico. And this card in the graveyard can actually recycle your banished insects or ones that are engraved and reset itself. So it's like a free pitch at this point. And then Pico, we're going to equip from the deck to our Mantis Monk an additional Resonance Insect. Whenever you're equipping with Pico, you're generally using the Resonances for that, because obviously you want to get them out of the deck and into the graveyard, but you don't want to send them from deck to grave because they have to hit the field first in order for them to actually trigger. So let me organize this a little bit. So off Pico, we're going to equip Resonance to our Mantis Monk. Let me just grab my hand here really quickly. Just note that this is still my hand. And now what we can do is we can go Pico's secondary effect, allowing us to shuffle back 3 insects and draw a card. So why don't we shuffle back our Arbalest, our Pin, and... we can also cycle back our Sachi. Put those back. we just recycle the one-ofs. And then again, this is another reason why we just play one of these. One-ofs of these is because you can just recycle them so easily with like the help of cards like Pico Felina. So we are going to shuffle those back in the deck, and we will get a draw. Now the draw here is just a free plus. It doesn't really matter. You're not looking for anything specific necessarily. So we will get a draw of Called by the Grave. That's obviously really strong. Now what we can do here is... Man, we can do so much. It's crazy. Why don't we link off the Monk and the Sting? That will send our Resonance to grave. Let's make a Link 4 play here into our Invincible Atlas. That will trigger the graveyard effect of our Resonance, allowing us to add a level 5 or higher insect from the deck to our hand. In this case, why don't we go ahead and actually grab a new card that we added to the deck recently. Wasn't featured in the profile, but we are playing a copy of Beat Trooper Mighty Neptune now. Something that I had overlooked before because I felt like, you know, recycling your banished insects back into the deck was counterproductive for the partisan play. But I realized that that doesn't really conflict because you actually banish so much that shuffling 3 back is fine. And this card gives you insane grind game capabilities, as well as just an additional extender, which is really crazy. And in order to accommodate this, we actually cut something I forgot to mention, is now we are only playing Gokapole as a one-of. We were maxing out at 3 previously, and I realized that this card doesn't need to be at 3. As 1, it's perfectly fine. You can continually recycle it over and over again, and it's a hard once per turn anyway. So, like, even if you opened with 1 and pitched it early, in the later half of that same turn, like, dumping a second copy wouldn't net you any value. So, Gokapole is perfectly fine as a one-of. Again, it's not a starter or an extender. It's just a card you just want to get to grave from anywhere, even if it's sent from deck. It's not like Resonance, where Resonance has to touch the field first. So this is our hand here. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in the hand. Note that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 extenders still. So again, even if they Nibiru'd us here, we still have so much gas to keep pushing. It's not even funny. Which is why I'm saying, like, even though this deck technically dies to nib because it doesn't have a way to stop the nib, your opponent's never going to be able to nib you in the spot that, like, really counts. Just because they're going to see you continually extending, they're just going to drop the Nibiru hoping that you can't keep playing. When in the sad reality for them is that you can keep playing. You can keep playing almost all day long. This deck takes a very long time for it to combo. As you can see, the video's already pushing the 20+ minute mark, and this is still the first test hand we've done, which is just obviously really strong. What we can do here now is we can special summon out a copy of Twinbow the Attacker from our hand, just using that as a free extender. And what we want to do here is we actually have a line for a couple of things. Firstly, why don't we go... Let's link the Twinbow and the Pico for a link summon of B-Trooper Armorhorn. Let's trigger the Armorhorn effect, allowing us to normal summon any insect, or just an additional normal summon. I don't even think it has to be an insect. Let me read on that if it does. During your main phase, you can normal summon one. Yeah, has to be. You can normal summon an insect. So this will be our 3rd normal summon for the turn. Keep that in mind. So we're going to normal summon out our Retaliating Sea off of the effect of our Armorhorn. Now what we can do here is we can actually go... How do we want to do this? Why don't we go Crawler Soma now? Targeting our Retaliating to flip it face down. That will special out our copy of Soma. And now we can go Soma effect, reducing its level by 4 to special out our 2 crawlers from the hand, deck, or the graveyard. So we'll bring out our Axon and our Spine. Again, just absolute insane amounts of extension. And now at this point, we can go Atlas effect, tributing an insect. So we'll tribute our Retaliating Sea. That will allow us to special summon a B-Trooper from our deck, of which we can grab a copy of, if I can find it, Sting Lancer. We'll go Chainlink 1 Sting, Chainlink 2 Retaliating, since it was sent From the field to the graveyard, we can add an Earth Insect monster with 1500 or less attack from deck to our hand. This is where the new Supply Soldier of the Indestructible Insects comes into play. And then off the Sting Lancer, we can actually go ahead and search ourselves a copy of B-Trooper Flying Sting, which is just a counter trap that's like a monster negate. I wish it was an Omni, but it's not, sadly. Bugs have a really strong way of negating monsters, but they're, aside from Nibiru being their weakness, their other weakness is their inability to deal with spells and traps, which is unfortunate, but, you know, we'll get there eventually. Bugs are slowly but surely catching up to the modern day. Now what we can do here, and this is what I'm talking about, like at any given moment, you have so many different lines and routes you could take. Like, we still have a 6-card hand, mind you, and think about how many times we've summoned. Look at how thick this graveyard is. Like, we've invested so much so far, and we still have like an insane amount of grind and extension capability. It just blows my mind every time I play this deck. It's so much fun. Now what we can do here is let's link off our Armor Horn and our Atlas to make our first Link 5. Well, I say first, our only Link 5. Ragnarok Stag Sovereign. Hopefully you guys can see that. Maybe I'll put it here as less glare. Link into Stag Sovereign. And now at this point, we can go... Man, there's so many things we can do. It's absolutely crazy. Let me just check my grave very briefly. We have to link summon. So let's clear our Soma, our Spine, and our Axon for a Link 3 play here. Why don't we go into a Seraphim Papillion? On Link Summon, Seraphim will activate to place tokens on it, or counters on itself, for each insect monster used as Link material. However, because we're activating an insect effect, that will allow us to trigger our Supply Soldier of the Indestructible Insects in the hand, specialing that as a free extender. And then we can, this has 3 counters on it, just remember that. And now what we can do here is we can actually go Supply Soldier of the Indestructible Insects, and we can fusion summon using himself and the Sting Lancer. That will make ourselves our first fusion, which will be Cruel Saturnus. That will trigger the effect of Cruel Saturnus on Fusion Summon to search us a B-Trooper card from the deck to our hand, of which we can actually grab... why don't we just grab the field spell, B-Trooper Formation? That seems pretty strong. Now what we can do is we can use the graveyard effect of our Armor Horn, banishing 3 insects to revive itself. So we will go ahead and banish our Invincible Atlas. We will go ahead and banish our Grand Partisan. And we will actually go ahead and banish our Resonance, allowing us to special summon the Armor Horn to our side of the field. That will trigger our Cruel Saturnus. Since a B-Trooper was banished, we can use Cruel Saturnus to special summon that monster back to our side of the field. That will also trigger the effect of Grand Partisan. Since it was banished, it will also special summon itself back to our field. And then that will trigger the banished Resonance, allowing us to Foolish Burial a insect monster, which we will put now our copy of... We can either dump Bio Insect Armor at this point to equip the Bio Insect Armor to the Partisan. That way, if the opponent sneezes at this card, or even looks at it the wrong way on their turn, it'll get banished, triggering its effect to like come back and blow up the board. Or we can also set ourselves up for a Bear Grum in the graveyard now, which we can use as an extender on this turn, or just have it in the graveyard as follow-up play for the subsequent turn, which is obviously really cracked. Now what we can do here... Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Let me rewind again, doing this off the cuff. I realized we cannot search for formation here because we need to search for B-Trooper Landing. That's what I should have grabbed. Because I still want a way to fusion summon into our new indestructible insect, the heavy cavalry is his name. So now at this point, why don't we go ahead and let's go. We can go landing. Let me just think about this for a quick second. There's so many things that we have access to. It's absolutely crazy. So at this juncture, why don't we go? Let's go B Trooper landing. Let's fusion away our Atlas from the field and our Rapier the Onslaught. It's a level 5 insect plus an insect. That will actually go ahead and get us into our heavy cavalry of the indestructible insects. And at this point, I mean, do we even link into anything else? I mean, I feel like we're already maxing out on what we can do. We're just running out of space. I mean, we have all of our zones clogged. We can't even use Mighty Neptune, even though I would like to. But why don't we do this? Let's... I mean, I guess, do we link? How do we... No, I guess there's no point in trying to link anything. I mean, I guess we could. But no, if we do that, that turns off Flying Sting, I guess. So that's not smart. Why don't we just pass on this board? We just set the Called By. We'll set the Flying Sting. We'll keep Mighty Neptune and Rebellion in the hand for follow-up. And we'll pass turn. At the end phase, however, we are going to trigger our Wisteria of Woe. If during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, we can shuffle 2 insect, plant, or reptile monsters that are banished or in the graveyard into the deck. And if we do, we can set this card. So why don't we shuffle the Pico Felina in the grave and the Menacing Mantis in the graveyard. We'll put those back into the extra deck so we have something, you know, we can make on the following turn. And we'll set the Woe. And then also don't forget that we banished our Wicked Butterfly, the Ragnaraka Wicked Butterfly, as like the first thing we did for our turn. So we are also going to get a draw at the end phase, which is literally a copy of Ash Blossom. I couldn't have set that up better myself. And this will be our end board. And like I said, we just have mad follow-up. Like, so think about all the disruptions. We have a double pop. We have a banish. And obviously we'll banish the Grand Partisan. Partisan will come back. And since we have 3 banished insects, he's a pop 3. We also have Called By. We have Flying Sting, which is a monster negate. And Wisteria of Woe, which is a double banish. Although we have to clear some space on our field before we can use Woe. And then we also have an Ash Blossom in the hand. And then, like I said, we just have crazy follow-up because we still have Bear Grum that we can revive to push for lethal on turn 3. And we also have Mantis Monk that we can shuffle one of these cards back into the deck and revive. And then we still have his effect to banish more bugs and be able to search the Hunting Dance trap, which we still play. But that's going to be our first test hand. And as you can see, the deck goes pretty hard. So why don't I... let's do one more test hand. I know that was really long, but let's do one more test hand. Let me just get the deck all shuffled up, and I will see you duelists momentarily. Alright, duelists, we are back. I just finished pile shuffling. I'm going to just shuffle a little bit extra for you guys. And we will get into our second test hand of the combo video. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content and the deck. If you guys have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you're not already. If you literally sat here for the past half hour and you're still not subscribed, subscribe. It literally doesn't cost you anything, and all it does is help benefit the channel in the long run. So with that being said, let's go ahead and draw another 5-card hand. We have Arbalest, we have Twin Bow, we have Retaliating Sea, Armed Rebellion, and another Retaliating Sea. So this is one of those hands that is obviously less optimal than the first hand we had. The first hand we had was like the nuts, I'm gonna be honest. But this hand is still very strong and still very playable. So what we are going to do is let's lead Armed Rebellion, because we didn't draw the Ragnarok Evil Seed, so we don't have to worry about like trying to commit to that first. And to play around like the insect lock, we can just lead with Rebellion straight away and see what happens. I mean, if they ash it, they ash it. If that's the case, I mean, we still have a normal summon like Retaliating plus special summon Twin Bow. That's a Link 2 play right there. Retaliating will get us a search for another body, and we can just keep extending that way. So keep in mind, again, even if this gets hand trapped, we still have a way to keep pushing through at least one form of interruption. But again, we're just playing this out like everything's going through, so you guys can actually see the potential. We are going to summon out a Resonance Insect, and we will be sending that Resonance Insect straight away to the graveyard via the effect of Armed Rebellion. That will trigger the Resonance since it did touch the field, and will send to grave. From there, it will let us add a level 5 Insect from the deck to our hand, level 5 or higher. That will allow us to search out the Rapier, the Onslaught, which is basically like Battle Wasp's Simoon for Blackwing. Any of you who are familiar with Blackwing. Now what we're going to do is we'll go Rapier, and we will pitch one of the Retaliating Seeds. We don't need two of them. Before it gets to the field, we place a Battle Wasp Wind, and then the Rapier special summons itself. So let me grab a copy of Wind. Place the Wind, special the Rapier, trigger the Wind to search. In this case, why don't we just go ahead and grab a pin the bullseye here. Now what we can do is we can go pinned special, burn the opponent for 200 because, you know, who doesn't like a little prick? And then we can make the Battle Wasp Wind, make the pin the tuner. And let's go ahead and synchro summon straight away into our Sachi, the ceremonial bow. We can then go Sachi. In this particular combo, we will be making the Sachi a tuner using her own effect, and then we'll trigger the Wind to grab ourselves a Battle Wasp. We'll go ahead and grab ourselves a Sting. And now that the Sachi's a tuner, keep that in mind. So we're doing this part of the combo a bit differently than we did in the first one. This is just to showcase you guys how you can pivot some of the lines and your sequencing and change a few things. Because in the first combo, we chose to not make her a tuner. But in this combo, we are. And the reason for that is because I'm going to now use the effect of my Twin Bow, the attacker. We will special summon that. We'll go Sachi effect to bounce the Wind back to our hand, and that will give us an additional normal summon of a Battle Wasp this turn. And what we can do here is we can go Graveyard effect of our Rapier the Onslaught, banishing itself to reduce the level of an insect we control by 1. We will make the Twin Bow a level 2. Note that the Sachi is a tuner, so we'll take Sachi and our newly adjusted level 2 bug with the help of our Rapier, and that will make a Diablantis. Note that we haven't committed to our normal summon yet doing so. Before, we used a Sting and comboed off that way, but this just goes to show you that, like, again, you don't even need your normal yet. We have the double summon off Sachi, as well as our regular normal summon for turn, which we still haven't utilized, which is obviously very strong. So what we can do now is we'll go Diablantis effect to send to the graveyard a insect or plant. Generally, let's go ahead and send our Gokapole if we haven't sent that, or if it hasn't gone into rotation yet. So we'll send Gokapole. Gokapole will allow us to add a level 4 insect from the deck to our hand, of which we can actually grab, at this point, a copy of... Why don't we grab... I mean, we could grab a number of things. We can even... Let's just grab Assault Roller, actually, because he wasn't featured in the previous combo. So we'll add Assault Roller to our hand. Then what we can do is we can go Assault Roller, banishing a insect from our graveyard, which will be Resonance, to special summon itself. And the Resonance will trigger its banished effect to send an insect from the deck to our graveyard, of which we can send pretty much whatever we want to put there. Let's go ahead and just dump our Scary Moth, get that out of the deck straight away. And now what we can do is we can go Diablantis effect to make the Assault Roller a tuner, and now we will Synchro Summon into our Grand Partisan. Note that we got to this point here, to the Grand Partisan, and we didn't normal summon yet. But something, I'm jumping slightly ahead of myself here. Before we synchro, we'll go Menacing Mantis, make this a tuner. Before we make the Partisan, let's reactivate the Wind so we can get that value. Don't forget that. Now we can synchro into Partisan. Again, the sequencing is, you have to get it down packed pretty well. But we can synchro now for the Partisan. Again, haven't used our normal summon yet, but that will trigger the Wind now, allowing us to search for, I guess, just another copy of Rapier, which, again, we can use as follow-up for the next turn, or keep in our hand for a discard, or keep in our hand as fusion material, which is obviously really good. And like I said, we got here without normal summoning, which is really crazy. We can literally make a Grand Partisan without even using any normal whatsoever. Now what we can do is we can get our... How do we want to do this? Let's go... Let's use our Sachi normal summon here for an Arbalest. We'll go Chainlink 1 Wind, Chainlink 2 Arbalest. Arbalest will go ahead and revive a level 3 or lower insect. Doesn't matter what we revive, at least in this case. So we'll just bring back our copy of Twin Bow. And then Wind will trigger, searching us a additional Sting the Poison for the follow-up play. Which, again, we already have a Sting in the hand, so at this point you're just like adding, you know, just free bodies, because why not? And that was our normal summon off the Sachi. Just keep that in mind. Now what we can do here is let's go link off Arbalest and Twin Bow. So we still have our regular normal summon for our turn. Let's make Pico Felina. We will go Pico effects, pitching a card. Let's just get rid of one of the stings we have. And we can equip to our Grand Partisan a insect from the deck, which will be a copy of Resonance. Then we can go Pico Felina's effects to shuffle 3 back and draw. So why don't we put back our Twin Bow, the Arbalest, and our Pin. Let's just shuffle those back, and we'll get a free draw for our troubles. Again, the draw doesn't really matter. It could be anything, really. We're not looking for anything specific. Maybe non-engine or maybe an extender would be nice, but either way, it doesn't really matter. It's obviously just a free draw. We have a Ghost Ogre, so cool. Grab some non-engine here. That's pretty strong. Now what we can do is let's link summon using the Pico and the Grand Partisan for our copy of the Mantis Monk. That will trigger the graveyard effect of our Resonance because it was equipped to the Partisan, so now we get an additional Resonance search. And here, since we didn't use it in the first combo, why don't we grab it here? Let's grab the Mighty Neptune. Do I want to grab Mighty Neptune? Yeah, I guess I can. Well, because that will cycle. I don't have... Let me check my graveyard really fast. Again, doing these combos off the fly. You know what? Instead of searching this for now, why don't we just grab... Let's just grab a Crawler Soma just to be safe. Now what we can do is we can go... How do we want to do this? I guess let's use our actual normal summon for the turn here. And let's just normal summon out Retaliating Sea. Note that we haven't used our regular normal summon yet. The normal we had off of Arbalest was off of the Sachi effect. So let's go ahead and put out Retaliating Sea here. Want to speed things slightly along here because this video is getting pretty long. But, yeah, let's do this. Let's go Mantis Monk, Graveyard Effect, or not Graveyard Effect, On-Field Effect to banish 2 to search a trap. Let's get rid of our Resonance, and let's get rid of the Partisan to search out a Ragnaraka trap. Since we grabbed Woe last time, let's go ahead and just grab the Hunting Dance this time around. Of course, if I could find it. There it is. And that will trigger our Resonance to Foolish Burial and trigger the Partisan to special itself back since it was banished. And then Resonance will send a insect to our graveyard, of which we can place a copy of Praying Mantis there, for example, just to have as an additional extender. And now, at this point, I mean, we don't even need to use the Soma. That's like the crazy part about this. There's so many things that we can do. Why don't we go... Mantis Monk and Retaliating. Let's link into our Invincible Atlas. That will trigger the graveyard effect of Retaliating, allowing us to search for a Earth Insect with 1500 or less attack. That will be our Supply Soldier of the Indestructible Insects. Now what we can do here is we can then use our graveyard effect of our Mantis, special summoning out a insect token that will trigger, well, on activation of our Praying Mantis, that will trigger the effect of our Supply Soldier. So before the token's actually produced, we'll chain to that, specialing out our Supply Soldier, and then the token will be produced off the Mantis. Then what we can do here is we can go Atlas and the token, and we can go ahead and link off for our link 5 the Stag Sovereign, and then we can actually just go ahead, this combo, we can play this one a bit lower to the ground if we don't want to get super crazy with it. Actually, wait, what am I doing? Hold on, pause before whoops. My apologies there. Hold on, let's cycle this back for a minute. Let's produce the token, but instead of using the Atlas and the token for a stag, let's go Atlas effect, tribute the token. That's what I'm missing. My apologies. And let's go ahead and summon out a Beat Trooper from the deck. Let's say Scout Boogie. Scout Boogie triggers to summon out Scout Boogie. And this is obviously how you're supposed to do it. Now we can overlay those for a copy of the number 3 Cicada King. Because we do have a Scary Moth in the grave, right? Yeah, so we can Scary Moth lock our opponent. Then what we can do is... I guess this is where... No, we can still do it. Why don't we go... Let's just leave the Atlas, because remember, it cannot be targeted or be destroyed by opponents since it's link summoned. Let's go Supply Soldier, sending himself, and the Rapier, using Supply Soldier's effect to fusion summon. And let's shortcut this a little bit. Let's just go straight for the Heavy Cavalry. And now what we can do is we can go set our copy of Hunting Dance, which is live, and we can actually pass the turn there. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. Just checking. No, we should be fine because we have Heavy Cavalry plus Partisan Disruption, which is a banish, and then this will, he's a banish, and then this, when it's banished, will return to pop 4 cards in this case on the opponent's field. We have a Monster Negate with Cicada King, plus the Hunting Dance pop, and then when Cicada King resolves, we will change its battle position, and that will allow us to special summon out a Scary Moth from our graveyard, effectively window locking our opponent. And then we also have a Ghost Ogre in the hand as additional disruption. But that is going to wrap up my combos and test hands, part 2 for my Bug Link deck profile. Let me know down in the comments below what you duelists think of the deck, what you thought of the combos, if you have any suggestions, and maybe something I could have done differently. I'm always eager to hear other duelist opinions. You know, keep it constructive, obviously, keep it friendly. Happy Halloween, and stay tuned on the channel. I will be showcasing the live duel between Ice Barrier and Volcanic sometime this weekend, so you don't want to miss that. And I think that's it. I'll also be trying to set up a live duel with this particular deck. Just give me some time to do that. But with that being said, this is Nick hitting that end phase. Peace.